Hi, so I've got a bit of a following going on here, right? People, I've made a couple of videos, one's the E-stop, and so I basically get a harmonica from somewhere, which I don't think is great, but I give it a go, and I'm literally saying to beginners, you might just want to avoid this harmonica unless you want to learn to gap, right? Which isn't advanced stuff, right? It's not advanced stuff, but if you've only got one harmonica and you're in a position where you cannot afford more, or if you're in a position where you post service in your area, or the shops, you're in a country where you don't get these shops, you don't get Amazon delivering every 5 times a day, so you got to be careful with what you got. This is your harmonica, you love it, you've got a bit of an interest in it, and you don't want to break it. You don't want to be messing around with it straight away, right? But yeah, so that's what I'm saying to people in these videos. Now, I suppose what you might not have heard is why should you, you heard the saying, right? If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? That's what it's like with harmonica. So that's why sometimes you need to listen to what people are saying in a group. If you can afford a Hohner Special 20, you just buy a Hohner Special 20, right? If you're at the lower end of the market because you just haven't got the money, right? You're looking for something to start on, the Kongshen Amazing 20 in C will do you good for a period. I've got a video on that and how responsive they are, right? But the whole thing about gapping, right? Why gap? Why bother? Why do you need to and stuff like that? Or it's more like a case of, I think, when not to. I have said this in my videos, but maybe you don't want to go through all these hundreds of videos because they might not be titled in that specific. I just want the answer. Well, when not to, right? Right, I'm playing an Irish song. Right? Lovely. Great. This is a low D harmonica, right? This is a D. Right, now this is a D and that's a D, right? They're both Ds, right? You know anything about piano, you don't really need to know much about piano, but you got the major scale, all these keys, then it repeats itself, Well, down here, dum 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 dum, is the lower keys. Up here, is the higher keys, but a D here is still a D. A D down here is a D. D, 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 D. They're both the same note, right? Well, they're both Ds. One's up this end of the piano, one's down there, right? Sorry about that. I just had to explain. But, right, how do I know? Like, I don't, I can't remember whether I gapped this or not. I probably didn't. This is a normal D. Right, all right, there's another question. Why? What's the difference? Well, listen. Well, if you're playing something, you could play along to a band, right, in the key of D, right, and they would both fit. But in private practice, you might be like, sort of high pitch, sort of, not very relaxed. Listen up. Yeah, all right. So that's why people get low Ds. Is because they might prefer a lower tone, more relaxed tone. Anyway, this video is more about why, when, and why should you not even bother gapping. Well, I just said, like I just showed you, but you don't know what I'm on about, really. I just know, right? I just know that that's just bang, bang, bang. It's just responding. Right? Maybe I tweaked it. I don't know. It's a high quality harmonica anyway. It shouldn't. But the session steels are known to need a bit of tweaking. This one here, on the other hand, right? I could just keep going now for the rest of my days, right? With this harmonica until it dies, sort of thing. It's fine, really. Yeah, I'm not trying to bend it. But see, if I did now, it took a lot of effort. The one that I sort of thinking, right, it might need a bit of gapping, or because it's a low key, right? So this ain't a bit like, right, well, I haven't got any low keys, so the video stops here. I've already showed how to gap on videos and all that. I'm going to show you again, right? I'm talking about very minimal amount of change, not technical at all, very minimal changes, right? But what this video is more like is why should I just not bother? Well, if you got harmonica, right, here's a reason why you should not bother, right? Listen to me. Listen, if you're already saying this guy waffles a lot, move on. You don't need to watch this video, okay? This is for someone who is curious. Should I be gapping? Oh, this gapping thing. Should I be doing that? Listen, if your harmonica works, if you're only at the stage where you're playing the major scale and you're learning a song with a major scale, you don't need to gap. If it's going, yeah, you don't need it. Yeah, you can play songs there in the major scale, right? You don't need to gap it, right? If you're at that stage where you're like, well, bending, wow, I want to bend, and I'm doing it really badly, because if you sort of sound, well, that was probably, yeah. If you're doing that, that's not a single note. It's not a clean single note, so the bend is going to be bad, right? If you've got a Hohner Special 20 and you're learning to bend, marine band, you're learning to bend, right? And you're thinking, what's wrong with me? I can't do this, right? I'm rubbish. I should just give up, should I? Sort of thing. You ain't got a teacher, maybe. You're just trying it on your own. What's wrong with me? I'm rubbish, right? Or what's wrong with this harmonica? Oh, gapping, gap, gap, gap. You hear this gapping, gapping, tweaking, gapping, and all that. Customizing. Oh. Do I need it? Do I need it? No, this is when you don't need to gap. You don't need a custom harmonica. You just need to learn to bend. Okay? You just need to focus on practicing bending on a decent harmonica, right? Yeah, I think when it comes to bending, right, I think you should get a decent harmonica, right? That's yeah, that I think if you just stop it there, then that's my advice, right? if you want to learn to bend, I think you should get a decent harmonica, because it requires a lot of work, right? So you want a reliable tool to do it on. But, right, you've got an E-stop, you've got something like that, Howling Wolf or a Fender or something, right? And you want to try and make it better, right? Now, so I'm going to do it with this. Right? Whether it's even going to be worth it, I don't know right now, right? You're still determined, you still want to give it a go, right? So I've already said you should avoid it if you're just trying to, you know, if you're trying to bend without having spent much time on it, then avoid the whole gapping thing, right? Unless you're on something like an E-stop and you're thinking, yeah, mine might be a bit gap. See, I already know, right? Just by looking at this, the Irish jig thing, the one that made me think, it's just not responding like it's almost like there's a tenth of a second delay, and like Irish jigs are supposed to be fast anyway. So I just knew, you know, and I'll show you why. See, look there, look, you can see it, can you? Yeah. Right. Looking at the second one in, you can see. Where's the camera? Right, you can see, right. The second one in looks somewhat raised more. Low keys have, I believe, longer and weightier reeds. Might not be longer, it might just be weightier. Right, I am pressing down. I'm doing like, you know, imagine if you're trying to get a splinter out your finger. You don't go, do you? Or you don't go, Argh! No, you're sort of like doing something a bit like that. You're stroking it. That's all I'm doing here. More towards the end, like if the reed is 1 to 10, then I'm going 1 to 3. Just pressing ever so lightly, right? Because these are steel reeds, they bounce back, basically, more or less. Right, for the sake of this, whilst I've got this thing open, I'm going to do it to... Yeah, if you've got a brass harmonica, Hohner, you've got to be a lot more gentler. Let's say I'm pressing like 1 to 3. Then you want to, like, I don't know, like, I'm just giving you like a sort of something to go by. Out of 10, if I'm pressing 5, then you on a brass, you want to be pressing 1, 2, or 3. That much lighter. Right, I already know. Right, so whatever happens, let's say that there's your reed sat on top of the reed plate. You don't want it like this. It won't sound. It needs to be sat on it. Like earlier, that reed was sort of like this, somewhat. So I've just stroked it just to get it on par. Yeah, so it's just sat. Like I already know, right, that that one reed is going to sound. Yeah, I already know that that's going to sound a bit better already. I am dealing with something slightly different to your average, to your standard harmonica. Right, I'm also looking, see there, there isn't much of a gap at all there. I can't see any big gaps. So this might just be a case I am actually, you see there, I'm going in the hole with a wooden toothpick. You see I'm sort of pushing up a little bit. And when I say push, you know, it's like you're trying to get some out of your eye. You're being as gentle as you can. Really gentle. See number 2? See that? Really gentle. It might look a bit, because I'm doing it counterintuitive, really. The best way to do this, like I was just doing with the blow reed, is to undo the screws, take it off, right? But I'm just doing the cheat. Right, for anyone who's still watching this video, like this now is a personal thing. I've had this harmonica for maybe nearly 2 years. I don't think I've ever cleaned it, right? So I'm going to clean it now, right? There you go. When should you clean it? Let's say I've used this harmonica twice a week, right? I mostly have a clean mouth when I use harmonicas. I'm mindful of what I'm eating and whatnot. I've actually got quite a few bad habits in that sort of area. But my point is, in groups and whatnot, they go on about, you know, sonic cleaners and things. I think a lot of that is like almost like this fashion sort of, oh, I've got this, I've got that. No, I'm going to go at anyone who uses them things. If you use harmonicas all the time, you might want to put them in the sonic cleaner, but then again, you'd have bits everywhere. I do one at a time. But when I open it for some reason and I go, right, well, there's no harm in me putting this in some white vinegar. I'd undo all the screws, put it in white vinegar for 5 minutes, then warm water under a tap, toothbrush and washing up liquid, put it on a towel to dry, and then put it back together. Yeah, so I hope I've answered that question. When don't you need? When shouldn't you? So when you shouldn't, just in case you didn't get it. Gapping is not going to make that any better, okay? It's just the major scale. If you're just playing songs without bending, most harmonicas, even the toyest of toys, should be able to just do that, right? Nicely, comfortably for a little while until you go, do you know what? I want to learn to bend now, right? Then what I'm saying then is, no, you don't learn to gap to make bending better. What happens is, again, I like these number things, right? Let's say you're on a bending journey, right? And you've been at it now for 2 months, for instance. You know, you've got some bends, you know, you're number 7 with your bends. You're quite happy, but You know, control wise, you're around 5 or 6. You know, you're quite happy, but you're still not 100%. You know, well, by now you've already learned. You started to bend, and you maybe play it into a lick. You're still not that happy. You know. Then look at the gap in to then make it maybe a bit more responsive. Yeah, you know, you'll know it's often like harmonica's a musical instrument, so we got to listen. And so when you're bending, is it going? I don't know with your mouth, but in your ear, like, can you hear this sort of white noise? Low keys are a different thing, really. The principle of gapping was the same principle, even with low key. So let's say you're a week into bending, 2 weeks into bending, and you're getting frustrated. That is the time when you shouldn't be looking at gapping. Shouldn't really be looking at gapping unless someone has said, someone who really cares about you and your instrument, and they're giving you sound advice, and they're saying you might be struggling so much, like they're like, I can hear you bending, but there's some a bit sort of thing, and they might say you might want to look at gapping. Well, hopefully that person's going to sort of guide you through it a little bit, advise you, and warn you what not to do. Really, that's what I think. That's what these things. They're largely it's what not to do, but if you're not completely poor and you've got a few pounds to go and buy one of them Suzuki Folk Masters or something, I think that's something like $3.99. It's worth spending a few pounds on something like that just to go and mess around with, just to try and make it better. So hopefully that's answered some of your questions for those who are looking at gapping. There are, you know, what I've shown you here, I didn't make it up. It didn't come from me. I'm no rocket scientist. It's the same stuff that Jason Ritchie would do on a video. There's customizers that have made videos where they go a bit more in depth about these things. The technical side of things, but what I'm talking about is why you shouldn't do this. Yeah, and sorry, so to my video about the East Top harmonicas, a couple of people literally said, I don't know whether they mean it, you know, but you know, I could always just throw it in the trash can. No, I'm not really saying that. It's worth keeping the East Cop as a second harmonica, a spare, something to practice gapping on, maybe a bit of embossing sort of thing. You know, you can open the cover plates at the back, bend it back. I've done that with one. So all that sort of customizing, you can have a go at that. You know, sand down some of the sharp edges and things, and you can make it into a nice harmonica. Take your time with it, a bit gapping, make the gaps a bit smaller. You'll get 6 months to a year out of an East Top if you do that. If you're I'm talking bending now. I'm talking around the bending area of practice. My personal opinion, get a better harmonica for that. Even the Kongshen Amazing 20 is better than the East Top. But for some reason, people like the stock harmonicas. They look good. They're no longer any cheap. As cheap as they used to be. But for some reason, people like them. Maybe they're accessible. I don't know. I don't play them. I don't even have one. Don't know. No, I don't. I sold it. But there you go. If you've got that thing, sorry if I'm going on. I hope this has answered your questions. Why you don't need to bend gap sometimes. All right, I hope that's helped. God bless.